So let's look at the first two chords and talk about ideas to build a melodic idea that we can continue through the piece of music. We have a G chord going to an F chord. Now, if we were playing down here, G to F, I might do... Although that does sound rather a lot like Soul Man by Sam and Dave, or perhaps Creedence Clearwater, depending on who you ask. So, I'm going to stay away from that. Let's go to a different area of the neck. Let's go up here, and for my G chord, I'm going to choose a C shape. Okay, now I'm going to start my voicing here on just the top three strings. And, you know, as I'm doing a bit of a Cage recap here, obviously the D shape shares the same three notes with the C shape, but you already know that. So here's our G chord, okay, based out of the C shape. Next chord we need is an F chord. So in this same area of the neck, the F chord that I see is the A shape, okay? But again, remember, when you play the A shape on the high three strings, you have to allow for the fifth of the chord being back 2 frets, right? So that's the shape we get. So if we have this G chord based out of a C shape, and we have this F chord based out of an A shape, let's see if we can find a melody to connect those together. Okay, that works. So let's see what I'm doing now. I'm taking my G chord and I'm playing a D. Well, we already have a D in the chord, so that's just a melody note. And now we have a C. Well, that's a sus4. And there's our G chord. So I'm playing and then resolving into the F chord. So by taking the embellishment of adding a suspended fourth, it walks us down to our F chord. So it's an example of voice leading. But as I said earlier, you could just go, and you wouldn't need any of the terminology about the sus4s and such, you know, it just sounds like a nice melody that resolves. Okay, so we could do that, and let's do that. And then if I look at the next chord, G, F again. So let's repeat that. And then just to make it different, on the second F chord, I'm going to use the low A. And sometimes that's a good thing with Cage as well. You can revoice a chord, put a note lower in the chord, just to kind of give it a fresh sound. So we have G, F, G, F. Next chord is an E minor. So if we're right here, what's the closest Cage shape would be the A minor shape. And I'll just add that little hammer on because I can't help myself, which is the 11th. And now we want to lead to a B7 chord, but I'm still hearing this melody that I just played. So I'm going to try and hint at that to lead us into the B7 chord. And I'm using our friends, the double stops that we've been talking about all the way through this course to set up that B7 chord, okay? Because then there's a melodic continuity. Second time. E minor. And now let's set that up. And there's the B7. Now, let's say a word about dominant 7th Cage chords. Obviously, you've just watched Chord Navigator 2, so I don't need to tell you anything new about this, but just on the off chance that you hadn't, think about we have an E-shaped B chord, and we want to put the flat 7 in that chord. Well, the flat 7 is always a whole step below the root, so we need an A note. So if we look at our B triad right there, we're going to put the A in on the D string. And there's our B7 chord. We could also put it in on the B string, but I like it there on the D string, okay? And that B7 chord is set up by the same voice leading melody. You see, that resolves into the B7 chord. So I'm letting the chords tell me what to play because I played this melody first. So to my ear, it's just a natural progression. We have the G, the F, G again, and then here's the E minor, which sets up the B. Now, so we have a B7 chord there, and we know it's a B7 because we're putting that A on the D string, okay? But incidentally, the big chord shape, the big Cage shape that comes from is the E7 Cage shape. All right, so there's our B7. Next chord is a C. Let's use something we did a couple of times earlier in the course. Let's combine thirds, fourths, hammer-ons, all that good stuff, and do that little lick again that I like playing. And that actually, it starts with a fourth, adds a third, then adds a C sus2. So this lick has practically, you know, all the best embellishments from the course in it. Except I go back and put the third back in it this time because I want it to resolve. So there's our C chord, okay? It's really saying, where's the C chord? C sus2, it's not resolved. Now it is. And then the last chord is a D7. So I'm just going to play this triad here, and that would be out of my caged G shape. And that would be fine if it was just a D major triad. But it's a D7, so we need to add a flat 7. Remember, dominant 7th chords are root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7. Where can we see a C note, the flat 7? Well, there's one right here on the D string. And that's a nice voicing for a D7. And you might think, well, a D7 has 4 notes and we're only playing 3 notes, right? But that's the beauty of the cage system. You can leave notes out, you just have to pick the right ones to leave out. As long as we have the 3rd and the flat 7, that's a dominant chord. So we have 7, or flat 7, root, 3rd. We're leaving the 5th out, we don't need it. The 5th isn't determining that that's a D7. But the flat 3rd, the 3rd and the flat 7 are. Okay, and that's basically the last chord, D7, before we go round again. But let's put some more double stops just to treat ourselves. Some nice diatonic thirds, based out of that D chord, as if I'm just playing the D scale. All right? And then let's go back to the start and see if it all hangs together. So G, F. Let's repeat that, it's melodic. F with an extra note. E minor. Let's set up the B7 with double stops. There's that B7. Let's get to the C chord using hammer-ons, pull-offs, thirds, fourths, sus2, and then D7. With some nice double stops walking us back to where we started, and G. That sounds like it's going to work against the track. Let's give it a go and see how it sounds.